Gregory Luhan. I'm the Associate Dean for Administration and the John Russell Groves Endowed Professor of Architecture. When I first came to the University of Kentucky, President Todd had organized a tour of the Commonwealth, and my role was to say, what role does design play in this context? And how could I take this idea of building things and taking things apart and introducing that into the context of the classroom, where the classroom literally becomes a three-dimensional textbook? So what was interesting for me was to start to make linkages between the tours that I was taking across the Commonwealth and aligning it to things that I was interested in doing in the studio. I love what I do. I mean, I have a great passion to do good for people. As the Associate Dean for Research, one of the biggest opportunities that we had here was to change the culture of the college from a really dynamic teaching school to a really formative research enterprise. So how do we design the highest performing building possible? Put that into a context, bring that into the classroom, and then teach students about the gravity of their ideas, the impact of their ideas, and locate that into a community that would impact the community in a positive way. We create new knowledge and we disseminate the new knowledge. So I'm not sure if you know the whole story of how I got involved in West Liberty to begin with, but at the time that the tornadoes hit, I was actually up in Boston presenting my research. I was informed by my daughter that tornadoes had come through and had destroyed the town. So when I landed the next day, my daughter, at the time she was 9 years old, she went to her room and gathered all of her toys and her stuffed animals and packed them up and said, "We're going to West Liberty." I said, "Well, we're going, let's go," right? And it was the first time that either of us had ever seen that type of destruction. A year and a half later, I got a phone call from some of the people that we met, and they realized that they didn't have everything taken care of. And how could we work with them? So we were working very specifically with all the folks in West Liberty to really invent great ideas and implement them. So the model that's behind you, showcases 35 different projects at a variety of scales, from residential to food towers that can provide food for all of Eastern Kentucky, recognizing that there's a food desert in the area for healthy food, to cultural heritage centers, military museums, idea factories, farmers markets, everything that you would need in order to have a sustainable community. One of the projects for the studio was to turn this into a publication because we want to effectively communicate a how-to primer. We worked with them to develop business plans, and then the floods hit in Johnson County. There was 100 families that were displaced, and so for the last semester we've been working in Johnson County looking at houses on difficult sites that would be affordable, that would be out of the floodplain. But we realized that a lot of the terrain in the area is very mountainous, so building on those types of sites is actually very expensive. So we've been working with structural engineering folks and construction science to think about the building as a different type of system where we can actually design these buildings to make them more affordable. So our challenge is to make it in an affordable way, to align it with the culture and the ideas that the families want to live, to make it high performance so the cost of living in the house is very small. Yeah, March 29th, we've arranged with Ag Extension to present our work to the citizens of Johnson County. So we're not just developing generic prototypes and saying, here's how you have to live, but actually working with the families themselves to understand how they live. So when we have the opportunity to work with communities that are around the university, it breaks down the boundaries between the university as being the ivory tower where they have all the ideas and the work that we do with the community, because the community has fantastic ideas. They also have an identity, and we also realize that we don't want to change what that identity is. We want to empower it. I mean, what you're really trying to be is a thought leader and realize that whatever you design impacts the health, safety, and welfare of everyone who comes in contact with it. So the domain of architecture is less about being the creative genius as much as it is understanding how to collaborate with others and put your ideas into action and to be engaged with the communities that we serve.